So let's talk about that, right? Taking care of yourself, because I think, not that I think, and you've already talked about it, environment plays a role. And sometimes you can have competing values,
right?
Where you're in a position, you're in a city, and you are very much dependent upon a paycheck. Or let me say it this way, you've worked a lot of your life to get to a position. You've gotten the degrees. You've worked very hard to get there. But let's say you finally get that salary amount, or you finally get that job that you've been working so hard for, and it's a toxic environment. Right? Now that has an impact. And I understand in your practice, you do a lot with that, and you help students even in the academic side of that. Yeah. Share with us a little bit, or talk a little bit about how the environment can be toxic and can actually compete or counteract what you thought you ultimately wanted.
When we talk about an environment being toxic, we're talking about an environment that is actually draining, unwelcoming, a place that becomes a spot that you really don't want to be in. Now, when I think about work and I think about where I'm going to spend 40 plus hours a week, I need to be in a space in which I feel somewhat comfortable. And I need to be in a space in which I feel somewhat like I belong. We're starting to talk about people in the toxic environment, whether it's a workplace or an academic institution. We're talking about people who they have that feeling. And we know Black people get that gut feeling. People of color get that gut feeling when you like, I don't know what's happening back there.
Right. I don't know if they want me here.
Right. And so when you start feeling that at work, where I got to spend 40 plus hours, when you break that down in 40 plus hours, you're talking about, 40 hours of work, 40 hours of sleep, 40 hours to do whatever you want. And that is your week. So 1/3 of my week, I'm in a space in which I don't feel welcome. And 1/3 of my week, I'm in a space in which I feel as though it's draining me. It's killing me. It's metaphorically, and in some cases, in reality, physically killing you. And that is what we want to avoid. Now, again, people will do what they have to for a purpose. So if you're saying, well, I'm going to put up with all of this because the end goal, this check is going to be able to provide for myself, for my family, for my extended family, people will put up with that. So you have to start weighing, again, you talking about those buckets before.
Right. But what's the that, Randolph? Like what is the that they're putting up with? 'Cause let's unpack that, because you got situations where, you hear the term gaslighting, right? When people try to make you question your own reality. Like, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. What are some things that you hear?
Boom. All right. So dealing with your employer who said, all right, look, I need you to have this assignment completed by January 15th. And so January 12th comes around. Where's this assignment? I told you I need it done by January 10th. Like,
you said 15th. Right.
Hold up. I had 5 more days. I had 3 more days on this assignment.
Right.
No, it was due 2 days ago. Since when? Per my email, you said blah, blah, blah. But we need this now. Something else changed. Something happened. I need you to get on this right now. No, after a while, you start questioning, hold on. Do you actually want me to be successful here? And you're seeing some of the same sorts of things when it comes with mixed messaging. So in the academic institution, for example, we care about our students. We want our students to be successful. We want our students to take time for themselves. We want our students to have self-care. While at the same time, you still need to have these 20,000 projects done at the exact same time. Now, let's be real. That's been an environment that we've been in where, you have these competing interests. And so the issue isn't the work. Let's be clear. The issue isn't the work. The issue is the messaging around everything else, where you want me to take care of myself, but at the same time, this workload that I'm telling you is too much. There aren't any sort of changes or concessions on the workload. Right.
There's it's like saying one thing and doing another. Again, now let's talk about the people who are no longer at the beginning. I've already have a significant amount of sunk cost. I've been in this career 10 to 15 years. I probably haven't hit 20, 30, but 10 to 15. And I spent over a decade preparing, schooling, navigating political systems to finally get here. In some cases, they're now the leader by title at the job. Now they're the principal. Now they're the manager. But they still have, some of the undermining taking place, some of all those situations. Like, what is a person to do in that case? In that case, do they just become mediocre? I can't go to another job because it's not like it's another place in this city. I'm not trying to move my family all over again, right? Like, how do you cope, man? How do you cope?
Well, you have to look at how can I change the culture where I am, which is a hard one. And let me be clear, where's the camera at? That is a hard one, trying to change the culture of the place that you're in, especially depending on your role in the institution. Because you have to be in a space in which you feel valued. You have to be in a space in which you feel enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways we actually can do that is by changing the culture. For some, it is we all as a system need to figure out what everyone is doing. We all as a system need to figure out why people are doing what they're doing or why they make the requests that they make. And for others, it is, again, putting everything out on the table. What are your actual expectations? Put that in writing.
For yourself. Like I put my own expectations in writing. Okay.
Yes. And if you're working for somebody else, put my expectations in writing. What are you actually looking for from me?
What do they? Okay. All right. So you bring a little more clarity.
Yeah, because it's a both and. Okay. In that, what do you expect from yourself at your job? But what does your job also expect from you?
Expect of you. Okay.
Because for some of us, our job is looking for 5 things. They may have given you a
bullet point list of like
20.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've seen this happen where the job description has 20 points.
Yeah.
But really and truly, what they really value are these random 5. And you are out here trying to do all 20 and you're falling short in these 5.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're underperforming.
But if you can identify what the real 5 are,
exactly,
then you can not let the other 15 stress you out.
Exactly.
Okay.
You can still do the other 15, but you know what your focus has to be.
Okay.
And that's a big problem that we have, especially when you have changing administrations, when you have changing, supervisors, what have you.
Yeah.
What are those actual expectations?
Right.
Especially when you have a lot of us young professionals who take on way more than anybody else.
Yeah.
You feel like you got to prove yourself.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I mean, in the Black community, we've always heard you got to do twice as good to get half as much.
Exactly.
Right.
And, you see
that's problematic.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. But it's one of these things in which, again, that's the truth, though.
Yeah.
As problematic as it is, we know that it's true. Like, again, talking about a university president who was just let go by their board for doing everything right, for being the most qualified and the most competent. However, it still wasn't good enough.
Man, I have no problem saying that there's a not so subtle, and I've said this before, double standard, right? It's like success, the measure of success, even as an entrepreneur, right? When you look at the fact where venture capital goes to 1% of Black founders, 1%, we're more than 1% of the population. That doesn't mean that there's only 1% of us that actually are, or that percentage of us that are actually entrepreneurial, that have promising businesses. But you look at like the level of proof that you kind of have to show that you're worthy to be invested in, because they don't have the same pattern recognition that they've seen when they see people that resemble Mark Zuckerberg or whatever, insert Stanford, a graduate, or whatever the case may be, right? But then also the level of what it takes for you to be indicted or accused or whatever is so much lower, right? It doesn't take as much. And so that does create this tension, man. It creates this tension of like, I can't win.
You can't.
You can't.
You can't. And that's the thing that we're seeing with a lot of our young professionals now, where it's like, I've done everything you asked me to do. I stayed late. I've worked 18, 20-hour days. I've slept in my office. I produced time and time and time again. But yet and still, you're telling me that I'm not good enough? Yet and still, you're telling me that I'm not worthy of this promotion? I've been doing my job, his job, and her job. And you're telling me that they still get a higher salary than I do?
Yeah.
That make sense.
So, and you're right, man. But I need some help though, Randolph, because I'm hearing, because I agree with you, and I have felt it, and I can tell you a lot of stories. Like I still feel a little bit, and maybe people watching this are like, all right, so what do we do then? Like it sounded like you were going down the path of, all right, create a different level of expectation or I define your expectations for yourself and then from them. And then is the answer always to get out, or is the answer to just change when you're in? Like, is there, I don't know how to ask this question, but.
I mean, I kind of get where you're going, and the answer is not always get out. Because as we know, seasons change. However, you need to figure out, is it worth me staying? Okay,
so that's what you're doing. You're going to see, all right, these expectations, is there potential in changing the culture that makes it worth staying? And then you kind of go through this exercise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have to be honest. For some of us, yes. For some of us, it is worth staying. Because I can get that culture change. Or because I am making that much money that I have the time and the energy to go take my vacations. For others, it's I have a plan. And let's be real. For those 3 people, where it's worth staying because I have a plan, or it's worth staying because I can get that culture change, or it's worth staying for the people here or whatever the case may be. That's enough. You have to figure out what is your why for staying in this position.
Yeah.
For others, it's no, I got to go.
Yeah. I don't see anything that's worth it.
And cool. Now let's be real. There are 2 options there. You can go with a plan, or you can go without a plan. Now, I'm always of the mind, please go with the plan.
Please go with the plan. I'm just like, forget all y'all. I'm about to burn this whole place down. Yeah. Hey, how you going to pay for your rent next month? I don't know.
Exactly. And for a lot of us, we do that.
Yeah.
You know,
we get fed up to the point where it's just like, it's just
forget it. I'm out.
Yeah.
But then we also have quite a few of us who will, they'll be on their work computers.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn.
Indeed.
Yeah. And they'll be on their work computers doing it.
Yeah.
And that's also a big sign.
Yeah.
Like you heard this term last year, quiet quitting. It's not quiet. But as an employer, as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, whatever, you need to start asking yourself, why are people doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just these young people, they're lazy and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
No, it's because they see through your nonsense.
Yeah.
And seeing through the nonsense, we're like, we're not going to take that.